Hi, welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. And I'm Yetta Decker.
And I'm Ken Decker.
And we're excited that you're joining us. If this is the first time you've watched the show, know there's lots of archive shows on chri.ca if you'd like to listen. And if you'd like to watch or listen, you can go to deckerteam.com. And there's lots of shows there about all kinds of topics in relation to real estate because it is the Inside Track on real estate. So today we're going to talk about a book that Ken has written, and it is called The Wealth Formula. So Ken will probably tell us all the reasons why he's written it, what to expect, and how you can even get your copy. So Ken,
yes,
tell me and tell everybody that's watching us today or listening why you wrote the book. Why write a book? I mean, you're busy in your real estate business, you're busy in your real estate practice with the Keller Williams Solid Rock Realty as well as with the Decker team and all your other crazy adventures that I know lots about. And so why write a book now?
Well, they say if you want to get something done, give it to somebody that's busy. And I've always wanted to write a book. I think everyone has a bestseller in them, and it's a matter of drawing that out and finding a subject matter that you're passionate about, researching it to death, and then writing a story. And what really is my passion is about building wealth and helping people get out of debt. And so I've been doing that for about 10 years now, doing fitness seminars. Actually started them with Lynn Fraser. She's kind of carried that mantle now, and I've gone off to do some other things.
So the financial fitness show that Lynn Fraser is doing, that started out as financial fitness workshops back about 10 years ago with you and Lynn.
With Lynn Fraser and Ken Decker. So we have a long history of helping people get out of debt. And so I think really when the real passion hit was when my father passed away. He died at the age of
72.
72, yep. And he left a lot of debt behind. His wife at the time had to sell the house because she didn't have enough. It wasn't paid for, so she couldn't afford to pay the payments. They still had credit card debt. He didn't have enough life insurance to protect her, and I actually had to write the check for his burial plot to make sure that he was looked after. And so it really said to myself, ooh, I really don't want to leave my children. I don't want that to be my legacy for my children.
Well, and you also felt, I think, really compelled at that time. You didn't want others to do that, right? I think that was a pretty tough season for you. It lasted a couple of years where you were really struggling with what all that meant and how you might move forward.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the financial side of things. It was the losing your last parent, that kind of orphan feeling. My mother had passed away earlier. And so having this desire to help people, I figured, why not put it into a book? And I became passionate about reading financial books. The first book I read was, 20 years ago or so, was The Wealthy Barber by David Chilton. Great book. He's since just rewrote it, and it's called The Wealthy Barber Revisited.
That's right.
I have not read it, so I cannot comment on that one. And I've just read scores of books since on financial wealth building, on planning, on estate planning, on getting out of debt, all kinds of things. And what I found was some were really great, some were dry, some were complicated, and I've got a financial mind, and it was really tough for me to understand the concepts they were having in it, and I thought, ooh, for the average person, that's not going to help a lot. So I wanted to come up with something. I had the financial principles that I wanted to put in the book, but I knew that I couldn't just write those out because...
That would be a little boring.
Well, it might be boring.
I wouldn't even read it.
For half the readers in the world, it would be boring. You and I were also on a journey as far as our relationship goes. We had some struggles in our early marriage years, and that almost ended in the big D word, which we don't want to go there. But we've been students on relationship as well over the last 20 years. So what God downloaded to me was a storyline to put the financial principles into. And so that's what the book is about. It's about a couple that go through life struggle. It's a second marriage for one of them, about their financial struggles that they have. And it walks through them running into a mentor and how that mentor shows up each time they need to learn a new lesson. And so through this book and through the story, there's all kinds of financial principles and systems, ways for people to get out of debt, ways for them to build wealth, right in the book and through the storyline. And it works really well. And what I did also was I weaved in the financial, not the financial, but the relationship lessons that we've learned in our journey through the couple as they struggle through their first years in marriage.
And then start to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the storyline, a little bit of what readers could expect. And what would you say is your target audience? Who would want to read this book?
Mm-hmm. Well, I wrote the book in a fairly simple language. I didn't want to put in a lot of complex words, so it would be a literary challenge for people to read.
Or
so
potentially a challenge
for
some.
For some, yeah.
And in fact, even a high school student would benefit lots from reading this book.
Yes. I think if you were a grade 5 or 6 level reader, you would have no problem reading this book.
So I should get it in front of my grandkids as soon as I get a copy of it, Ken.
One of my goals is that this actually becomes mandatory reading in a high school class, because I think it's got that much principles in it, financial principles. Because like gravity is a principle, and it's a law. It's a law of gravity. If you jump off the side of a roof that's 30 feet up, guess what? You're going down.
Unless I got a parachute.
Unless you got a parachute, you're still going down.
That's true.
But
just
you're going
not as
down
fast.
a little slower, and you might not get hurt quite as much. But unless you got rockets pack on your back, or you've got wings or something, you're going to fall because gravity is going to pull you down.
Right.
That's a law. There are laws within the financial world that work the same way. And when people are breaking those laws, they're getting hurt. They're getting in debt. They're spending money on interest that just is not helpful. There's only one person that's benefiting, and that's the banks and the financial institutions that are loaning out the money. So who do we right now get most of our financial counsel from?
The banks.
We go into the bank, we talk about, should we mortgage, should we consolidate, should we get a visa, they're pushing those things. And then the media, there is tons of media on, you deserve it, and this is priceless, and, MasterCard this, and Visa that, and Discovery Card this. And so, you deserve it, and for only $99 a month, you can have this. And so people think, well, it's affordable, I should have it. And they're robbing from their future to have things now.
Explain that, how somebody is robbing from their future. What do you mean by that?
Well, Dave Ramsey, who wrote Financial Peace and is a bit of a guru on getting out of debt in the U.S., he says, live like nobody else now, so later on you can live like nobody else. And so it's simply delayed gratification. Okay. They did a little marshmallow test. It was really cute. Back, I think in about the 70s or so, where they put kids into a room by themselves. They gave them a plate with a marshmallow on it, and they said if they could wait till the person returned, they would come with a second marshmallow, and they could have 2 instead of 1. Well, what they found was a certain percentage of kids could wait, and then they got the 2 marshmallows. That was called delayed gratification. Other ones just ate it right away. And then they tracked those kids through university and through their employment years. And the kids that had the ability to wait did better in university, got better grades, got better paying jobs, and were financially much further ahead than the ones that couldn't wait.
As a rule.
As a rule.
It's a general rule.
And so the same thing happens with delayed gratification. If I can wait to buy a car, or buy a car that's secondhand instead of one that's brand new and it's going to depreciate 30% when I drive it off the lot, then I'm not going to be paying interest and I'm not going to be paying depreciation. So I'm not robbing from the future to have something now.
Right. So
Does that make sense?
Basically paying as you go.
Yes.
Pay for what
Living within your means. Isn't that a neat concept? That's one of my definitions of wealth. Wealth is 2 things. The book's called The Wealth Formula. And it does have a formula for becoming wealthy. And wealth, there's a couple things that are important to know. Wealth is knowledge. I think if you have knowledge, then you're wealthy, and something you can pass on is knowledge to your children and your children's children. And then also, when you're content with what you have, then you're wealthy. Some people live very wealthy lives, and they don't make more than $30,000 a year. Or they make a few $100s a month, and they live in the Caribbean or something. They have wealthy lives because they're content, they love what they do, they love their lives, and they're wealthy.
And there are other people that have a lot of money or make a lot of money that don't necessarily feel wealthy.
Yeah, lots of times when you ask someone about someone that's rich and you say, are you wealthy or rich? They will say, no, I'm not. And it doesn't matter whether they are, they've got $1 million in the bank or $5 million in the bank. It's, well, if I had 2 million, then I would be wealthy. Or if I had, instead of 5, if I had 10, or if I had 100 million, then I'd be really wealthy.
And the guy that has 50 million still thinks the guy that has 100
more
million is wealthy, and he's not wealthy.
Right, exactly. So
it's a moving target.
It's a moving target, but be careful, because if you're not content with where you are, you never will feel wealthy. You'll always feel like, I'll be wealthy when. And so when we become content with what we have and we get out of debt, we start to live and get excited and have passion, and that burden of debt is released, and you can live again. And that is wealth. That's living wealthy.
Right. So it's not so much about the amount of money, it's about an attitude.
Yes, although the book does show you ways of building wealth, but one of the first steps is get out of debt.
Okay.
Because while you're paying somebody else interest, and you're using the reverse compound interest, in other words, you're paying someone else interest, you're making them wealthy. And as soon as you can get out of that so that you're earning income, then you can start becoming
So let's talk a little bit about this reverse compound interest. I mean, that I understand it. We've talked about it many times over the years. How does it work? What does it mean? Why do you even use that terminology? Reverse compound interest. I often think of compound interest as if I invest $10,000 and I'm going to earn interest on that $10,000. And then as that creates interest, then I get to earn interest on, say,
on the interest.
On the interest, and it continues to compound.
Exactly.
So what's reverse?
Well, it's really just looking at it from another person's shoes. For instance, Yetta, if I said to you, you could make 18% interest.
I'd get pretty excited.
Would you like that?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay.
Because right now it's not anywhere near that.
So if you're like the typical Canadian and you're carrying debt on your visa, they call it revolving debt because it always stays on there. Maybe you have $5,000 on there and you go, well, I'll pay my minimum payment this month. They have good intentions. I want to pay it off, or I'll pay a little extra. Instead of paying the minimum $100, I'm going to pay $200 or $300. And then next month, there's an emergency because a dress is on sale or the shoes are on sale or something.
Sometimes they're real emergencies.
I'm not talking about you, for instance, but it could be real emergencies. And that credit card keeps rolling at that $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000, and they're paying 18%, right? Now that's after-tax dollars. So I can make 18% tax-free money simply by not having that debt, because I'm not paying it out. Now Visa, on the other hand, they're sitting on the other side, or MasterCard, or whoever it is, Sears or Canadian Tire, whoever they've loaned you money, they're getting the compound interest because they're getting their 18% on it.
Or 12 or 20 or whatever it happens to be.
Yes, and then they're loaning that to someone else. The interest you're paying them, they're reloaning to someone else and making interest on it. So they're getting compound interest on their loan. The only thing is we have reverse compound interest because we're paying it out.
Okay.
And when we pay it out, we lose the ability to make money with it because it's going out.
Okay.
Okay?
So if you're just joining us now, you're on the inside track on real estate with the Decker team. And today we're talking about a book that Ken's written called The Wealth Formula. If you haven't heard the first half of the show, you want to go back and listen to that. And if you want to look at any of the other shows that are more specifically about real estate, mind you, The Wealth Formula does have real estate strategies within it, so you'd certainly learn lots by reading it anyway. You can check out chri.ca to listen to other shows, archive shows, or to watch them. You can check out deckerteam.com, and that's Decker with double K. We're thrilled that you're with us, and we're just going to continue this interview with Ken Decker to hear about the details of his book, The Wealth Formula.
So The Wealth Formula really is written as a story. It's an easy read. Someone could read it in 3 to 4 hours. It's a couple hundred pages, and it's exciting. It's learning. It really brings to life education in a story format so that people can get the emotion. Because if you're going to remember something, attach emotion to it. You'll remember it forever. So if you can feel the emotion of the characters as they go through their struggles and their fights and the tears and then the excitement later on and the fun that they have when they find a bicycle built for two, and the bicycle built for two is very a little mysterious, and they meet a mentor on the road when they're riding their bike. And throughout the story, each time they need to learn a new thing, they meet the mentor. And when they're not ready, in other words, they have not implemented or done the lessons that he's taught before, they won't run into him. They will not find him, as hard as they may. So it's fun. The mentor has a little bit of a mysteriousness to him as well. And he's got some great life lessons for them to learn.
So he teaches them along the way.
Yes.
And then one thing you said that I find interesting is the whole idea of we hear so much information that we don't necessarily implement. We hear it, we think it's a great idea, we have an intention to do it, and for some reason it just doesn't happen. And so what Ken's saying here is that the folks in the storyline, and even in real life, we probably won't even receive the next lesson well if we haven't implemented the previous one that we heard.
Yes, there's an old saying that says when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. My philosophy is the teacher's always there and the student doesn't see them until they're ready.
Or take in what they're teaching them.
Right, exactly.
Excellent.
So we're in this culture where debt is escalating at a huge amounts. The government is making controls on housing to try to limit people's debt. But so far, because we live in a free country, they haven't limited things like the interest that credit cards can charge, or the amount of credit that someone can have on credit cards or line of credit.
Or no pay cent events, or
all of those things that can snare people into debt. The don't pay a cents that you buy something now with a payment later. One of the problems is people have good intentions. They think they're going to have the money, and then they don't have the money, and they don't read the contract well. So when they don't pay it before the due date, interest starts to accumulate. But not just from that point on. It's backdated from the first time that they bought the thing and continues on. And it might take them another 3-5 years to end up paying for that.
right. So generally the no pay cent event means you need to have it paid off by the time that 18 months, or at least have the money saved to be able to pay it off in its entirety, because generally speaking, the interest then would have been back prorated to the time that they actually bought the item, in most cases. I think there's different contracts and different ways of having it written, but that's a little loophole that most people don't even realize is a possibility.
Yeah, and the other thing they don't realize is when they take advantage of those things, it actually hurts their credit rating. And there's a little story in the book how that affects credit rating, and how one of the characters in the book can't get a mortgage because of the way their credit rating is, and how they work with a mortgage broker who then helps them reestablish their credit rating and allow them to get into a house later on. So it's a feel-good book. I think it's got a really fun ending, and it's a surprise. I'm not going to give away the whole story. Just know that it's the kind of book that you probably won't want to put in your spouse's hands. It's
Or your kids. I just think about kids so much.
In your kids and your grandkids' hands. It's the kind of book you probably want to buy 5 or 6 and hand them out to friends, because it's not going to be published in the normal realms. It's going to be self-published, so you're going to have to find it on my website or come to hear me speak on the topic some point, and get a copy that way. There will be discounts for volume for people ordering multiples on the website, and that way you can give them as gifts or make a great Christmas or birthday gift. Because if you've got someone that you care about and you care about their financial future, and maybe they're struggling in their marriage because usually it's the woman that will feel insecure and thought they were getting married to be looked after and have that security. And when they have this mounting debt and the pressure of debt, even though maybe the husband or maybe it's the wife or maybe both of them are working their buns off to make the payments and make ends meet at the end of the month, the problem is lots of people have more month than they have money. So the money runs out before the end of the month. The average Canadian spending over $1.07 for every dollar they earn. So with interest rates so low, we would think that we would have much less debt in Canada right now because people would be paying off their debt really quickly because interest rates are so low. Although you'll notice even though rates have come down so low, most of the credit card rates are still really high, same as they were when interest rates on a mortgage were 10, 12%.
Well, they've dropped a little bit.
A little bit, but not, Yeah. And maybe you've got that credit card that gets points and stuff, and because you're getting those points, the interest rate's 18% or something. You might be able to get a much lower interest rate if you get a basic Visa card or something.
So if you have to carry a credit balance for a short time while you're changing your habits and your lifestyle,
right,
then you could in fact at least save some money on interest.
Mm-hmm. So there's a program in the book called the Snowballing Effect to eliminate debt, and people will find that you can eliminate your debt so much faster than you thought ever possible when you actually focus on it. It's kind of, most people use what I call the shotgun effect. If I've got a bunch of debt and I've got some money, then I'm going to throw, okay, the minimum payment on Visa, I'm going to throw $50 and throw another extra 100 on it, and then I'm going to pay my MasterCard, and I'm going to pay my line of credit bill, and I'm going to pay my mortgage, and I'm going to pay whatever.
Maybe a car loan?
Yeah, a car loan, and it's kind of a shotgun effect. I'll throw a little extra at everything, rather than get that laser focus where we can knock one out, and then we can celebrate, and then we can knock another one out, and we can celebrate, and we snowball it. In other words, the payments that we were going to the one, we're going to add on to the next one and add on to the next one. And there's some cool tools available on the website that you can utilize, put your numbers in, the same kind of program that Sarah and her husband in the storybook, what they've used. And the beauty is that Sarah has journal notes, and those are the summary notes from each chapter. So
they're more the Cole's Notes version as well as the details of how to do it.
yes.
So the story is sort of the whole story, and then Sarah's journal notes are the facts. So if somebody just wants to see the how do I do it?
They could technically read the just Sarah's journal notes. I find that you might miss some of it that way.
Right, because you won't get the emotion attached to it.
No, it's really more designed, read the book, and then as you get to the chapter summaries, that's when you can look at that and go, okay, what am I going to implement now? What am I going to change in my life? What am I going to do because of the chapter I just read? And then once you've read the whole book, you can also go back and just go, okay, I need to implement this stage now, and then I'm going to implement that stage in 3 months or something like that. Okay. It's got really fun book. You might read it and go, hey, I recognize that person or that person, but really it's not. It's a mishmash of all kinds of people and all kinds of situations that you and I have run into over the years.
Watched others experience.
As we've helped counsel couples, both financially or relationally. Real estate things we've run into, things from my childhood. It's just a mishmash, of information, but it's a made-up story. So any resemblance in the characters would be just coincidental. Yeah.
Because we've had a few people already review the book, and they've said, "Oh, I recognize that person," but really, they can't really. They just think they have.
They think they have. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Ken, the book is coming out soon, and there's going to be a website for the book. What is the website?
It's called Wealth Formula, but there is a dash in there, so it's WEALTH-formula.com.
All right.
And you can go to .com, .ca, .org, .net, just about any one of them. I've bought them all. And so on that website, there's free tools. So even if you don't buy my book, you can go there, download some tools. There's tools for cash flow. There's tools for budgeting. There's tools for snowballing. There's even a tool that will show you what your latte factor will cost you. When you buy coffee or buy cigarettes or buy
chocolate bars. I like chocolate bars.
Or chocolate bars. Any of the luxuries that you buy on a regular basis, maybe pizza every Friday night or something, pizza in a movie, what that actually costs you at a percentage growth, if you have a compound interest rate and you put that into the tool, it'll show you over 20 years, 30 years, or whatever you have left that you think you're going to be in your earning years and spending that kind of money. It'll show you exactly what that cost is. We call it the Latte Factor. And you'll be surprised. It might be close to $1 million or even over $1 million when you look at what my discretional spending is really costing me when I don't invest it instead.
Right. So Latte Factor refers to discretional spending.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Fancy. It's not just coffee. So I don't drink coffee. I probably still have a Latte Factor.
You probably do, because you maybe like teas or you might like pastries. I drive by the Tim Hortons each day and I see the lineup in the drive-thru, and it's probably the same cars there every day. Same thing at Starbucks, and I'm not just picking on the coffee shops. People that go out for lunch every day instead of packing one. That's what I call Latte Factor. It can really add up. Having bad habits like cigarettes or drinking too much or something like that can also add up over time. If we just take what a pack of cigarettes is worth now and multiply that out, compounded, it's astounding what that can cost over someone's lifetime. Okay. Never mind the health issues.
Yeah, exactly. So you've joined us today on the Inside Track on real estate with the Decker team, and we've been talking about Ken's book, The Wealth Formula, and we've let you know how you can find it and order it and purchase it and read it, and we'd love your comments on it, as well as other suggestions for the show or questions specifically. You can reach us at Decker Team at CHRI. That's Decker Team with 2 Ks, Decker Team at chri.ca or at deckerteam.com. So either one will have you connect with us, so we'd love to do that. You can connect with us on the web, watch archive shows, or just connect with us and ask us any questions on real estate or anything else that you think we have expertise on, and we'll let you know whether or not we do. So, Ken.
It's been a different track today, but thanks for joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much.